Good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is the introverted, perverted youngin, J-Steed, the dark-skinned marksman himself, and I'm accompanied by...
Mr. Every Night, the problem solver, holder of the Infinity Stones.
And this is Rat Pack Media. So tonight we have a pretty interesting show for you guys. Going to discuss the identity crisis with, I guess, concerning the Dominican population, community. Let's say community, not just population. That covers, I guess either or. But anyway, we have a special guest host with us, returning, and he goes by the name of Tin. What's going on, Mr. Tin Man?
What's up, Rat Pack? How you guys doing?
Great.
Good. How's Florida?
Florida is hot as hell right about now. I think today was like 92 degrees, but hey, kind of trying to shake off this corona situation going on, but we'll see how that goes.
All right. So we're just gonna jump right into it. So like I was saying, we're gonna discuss the identity crisis that's concerning Dominican people, and in today's current climate, that's pretty a topic to be discussed. It's a sensitive one, and hopefully we can handle it accordingly and properly, and not really sully or further sully the topic. So anyway, I guess I'll kick it off. So me, I'm black, as you guys can see. There's no secret to that. I've had my
I hadn't noticed that one bit, sir.
Okay, I figured I'd let you guys know because maybe you thought I was Dominican.
Wait a minute.
I don't know.
That's a really good way of kicking this off. I like that. Okay.
See? Well, like I said, growing up in the Bronx as a young black man, I didn't really have any actual concept of race, right? To me, people were just people. Now, all of that didn't start to settle in until I got a little older. I want to say like 7. I was going over to some of my friends' houses, right? Now, the thing about it was, I didn't really know what Dominican was. So everybody I've come across was Puerto Rican back then, right? So I would go over to my friends' houses, and everything was cool. Like I said, when I was 7, everything was cool. But then as I got older, the everything started to shift. The mood, the tone, how the parents would talk when I would come in, and those visits will always be cut short. Like, it would go from me being able to stay there and play Nintendo and actually eat dinner to my visits only being like no more than 10 minutes, and we'd have to go outside in the hallway or play outside. So it never dawned on me like what that was about until when a group of us would be playing, and then some of the Spanish kids would come outside, and everything would be cool, but then somebody would yell out race war. And next thing you know, they talking about all what they would call them, all Puerto Ricans on this side, all Morenos over there. But then I would have, we would have some light-skinned friends, and they would be like, nah, you belong over here with us because you're not black like the Momos. You know what I'm saying? So, again, didn't quite understand. Yeah, didn't quite understand.
They said, just to be clear, they said you're not black like what?
The rest of those Momos.
The rest of those, okay, because that sounds really close to the Spanish word for monkey.
Right.
Mono.
That's what I was told later on. That's what they were actually.
Wow.
That's. So again, didn't dawn on me, and then as I got older and more wiser, started realizing like a lot of my actual Spanish friends didn't hang out with me anymore. They didn't talk to me when they see me in the streets. You know what I'm saying? They were only black people that I saw that they were even talked to or respected, like the drug dealers. Anybody else, not really. So I never quite understood that. And, as a grown man, going into, I want to say, the canasarias or the grocery stores, you know, they would be quick to try to rush me out. You know, I like going into the canasseria, like, as I mentioned, like I would go in there and try to order, like, let's say an oxtail dinner or something. We out of it. I'd have to get chicken, beans, and rice and keep it moving. Meanwhile, I would see somebody else come in shortly after and order what I just asked for, and they get it. It never made sense to me, but then I guess I kind of figured it out, you know what I'm saying? And then there was another time, oh my God, I went to this really, you know what? Let me stop rambling because there's other people on this show. I'll get to that a little later. But every night, what about yourself? Have you ever had any?
Nah, I've never had any of those issues that you're talking about. Like, all my Spanish friends, you know what I mean, they was cool. Mm-hmm. Like, hung out with Dominicans, Hondurans, people from Belize. You all hung out and was crewed up. We used to go to reggae parties and all that.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess this doesn't really pertain to you as much. But Mr. Tin. So I've recently heard this phrase called "mejora la raza." What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Hopefully, I said it correctly. Did I say it correctly?
No. Yep. You hit it right on the head. Mejora la raza. Literally means bettering the race.
Right.
You know, there's other phrases that specifically Dominicans use, which is blanquear la raza, which means whiten the race. And these are very very common phrases that you'll hear in Dominican households, and you'll hear them sometimes in jest, you know, playing around, and sometimes, you know, especially the older the person in the household, the more serious they're going to be about it. And it's the concept of you know, basically, if you immigrated here to the U.S., you know, to the U.S. mainland, the goal would always be, the pride and joy would always be to get with, date, marry, have kids with someone that's lighter skinned than you are. And that way you're progressively lightening up, right? Whitening the family line, the family tree.
Got you. Before we proceed with any further, like with your personal stories, could you give us a little background as far as the Dominican Republic and Haiti goes with that history?
Yeah.
Trujillo, if I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, that's good, man. So there's the history and the clash that you see between the different skin colors and the colorism, right, on the island that Dominican Republic is on. Hispaniola, exactly. It goes way back. And really it goes back to the Spanish settlement that was on the island and the French settlement that was on the other side of the island. The Haitian side of the island revolted first, and they gained their independence. Right. It was the first independent black nation in the history of humanity that successfully revolted over European settlers. So the entire island at one point was Haiti. The other side of the island that had more Spanish influence then revolted years afterwards and gained their independence. So the independence in the Dominican Republic, the Independence Day, they're celebrating independence not from Spain or the Spaniard overlords. They're celebrating the independence from the nation of Haiti to make their own republic on that side of the island.
Right.
So you know, fast forward some time and more into the 1900s, and you have this dictator that took power called Rafael Trujillo, and of course, he prioritized the economic status of the nation, and everybody was doing well, and everybody was making money, and everybody was successful in that right. But that also came with lots of consequences, and the fact that he was, a heavy control freak, and he instituted a whole bunch of policies that were classist, and with that, he brought in a lot of racist policies that included the ethnic cleansing of Haitians or people of Haitian descent that were on the Dominican side of the island.
Interesting fact: he had about a quarter of Haitian blood within him. And you?
That is right. That's what I read. It really, it blows my mind to know what he did to the Haitian population and the ethnic cleansing that he was directly responsible for. And we're talking about, the record keeping was really bad, but we're talking about anywhere between 10,000 and 35,000 folks of Haitian or Haitian descent that were killed as a result of the Parsley massacre.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah.
All right, let me take it from there. So I read that the way they would be able to determine if you were Haitian versus Dominican was pretty much saying parsley in the native tongue, but if you can roll the R properly, then you're Dominican. But if you can't, then you're Haitian. But the problem with that was you had Dominicans that were born close to the border, so they adopted some of the Haitian dialect,
Right.
And it didn't matter. They still were cleansed. Continue.
Right. So, so that brings up another interesting point, whereas you cannot tell, and this is where it goes to, right? Because you have to come up with little tests like this to try to decipher someone's background, and even that will be inaccurate, right? You cannot tell by appearance alone sometimes whether someone is of Haitian descent or someone is Dominican. That's why you have to qualify it with something else into the equation to make this crazy determination.
Every time I seen a Haitian dude, he tend to look just like me, and it's rare that I see a Dominican dude that looks like me. I've seen them and didn't know he was Dominican, because I had this dude that used to DJ reggae joints, you know what I mean? Had the little Jamaican accent, but he got deported to DR, and I'm like, wait, what? How was this? He was playing like he was Jamaican the whole time, and he got deported to DR.
Right. Well, I'll tell you that there's a big chunk of the Dominican population that is darker skin. I have first cousins. On my father's side that are, in appearance, they have just as much melanin as you, Steve. And then I have first cousins on my mother's side that, they have like blonde hair and blue eyes, and they're super pale skin. So we really have like a large range of what a Dominican is, and that that goes for all of the Spanish Hispanic countries. That goes for Cuba. Right. That goes for Puerto Rico.
So let me ask: does that create
have a long range
conflict within your family?
Yeah, that creates conflict within families. Period. Because when our parents, so my mother came here in the 60s, my father came here in the 70s. They're both Dominican. They met here, but they brought obviously their influence and their stuff with them, and they raised me and they raised my sister with it. For those that are listening to this episode, that they can't see me, my appearance is more of a, I get that I look Middle Eastern a lot, right? I don't look white. I don't look black. I look somewhere in between. So every time I'm in New York and I go to a bagel cart and homeboy sees me, he's like, "Oh, Habibi, so that's
he's thinking his shift is over.
like I'm there to take over. No, but that's so just to explain to the listeners, that's my appearance. My appearance is not that of a black person, but you can definitely tell that I am of a color that's not white, right? My sister is much darker than I am, and this is my 100% my sister on both sides. My sister, right? She's much darker than me, and she gets treated very differently than I do when she goes to places, and she's already told me of some of the stuff that she's gone through, which is it's incredibly disheartening to hear, obviously. So anyway, back to the family stuff. I'll tell you that my experience, and again, I'm not coming to y'all on this show as a historian. I'm not coming to y'all as an expert
of course
on the topic. I'm not qualified for that. I'm here to talk about my personal experience.
Right, we're just having a conversation.
I'll tell you guys that I've been told more than once, don't bring those people here. Or don't get a girlfriend that's black, because I don't want to learn how to I don't want to have to learn how to braid hair. Stuff like that has been told to me all the time, and the irony about it is that I went to a predominantly black school for most of my childhood, and of course all my crushes, all these little girls that I was looking at, I was trying to holler at, whatever, they were black, they were dark, and of course, like that ended up influencing me later on in life, of course.
Well, let me ask, did you ever date any of them during that time? Or
yes, man, yes, right. Yes.
But did you bring them home?
Absolutely. Yes.
Not when the folks were around.
I plead the fifth.
Not when the folks is around.
No, but I'll tell you, the young lady I ended up marrying, she is half Dominican, half Puerto Rican, but her appearance is very much Afro-Caribbean or Afro-Latina. She has a lot of black characteristics, and she has the hair that comes with it. She has that, and it's something that I love, and I'm that's played a big part in shaping my taste and all that other stuff, and my appreciation for that part of our people's fabric.
Okay, so let me ask, because I just like to know with you personally, you grew up in that type of household, that kind of family, that kind of background. Today, would you say that you've grown past all of that?
I would say that I'm old enough to know that I can always learn more. Okay. But I definitely I can say for sure that there are times in my life where I can tell that there was a before and an after certain events that shaped my thinking in regards to this.
Right.
One of them was this show that I saw that you were kind enough to point me into the direction of, by Dr. Henry Louis Gates, called Black in Latin America, and there's an entire episode on Dominican Republic.
First episode.
And that's the first episode of the series, yeah. And it talks about the history of the Dominican Republic and the treatment of people of dark skin in the country, and how they have to struggle there, much like Black people have to struggle here in the U.S. And then again, you hear stories in Dominican Republic. You hear stories of people taking a public bus, and a Black person or a person that's suspected of being Haitian takes the bus, and he pays a fare, which is high, and then a person that's lighter, or a person that's obviously Dominican or more Dominican, or considered to be more Dominican, pays a different fare, pays a lower price. And you'll hear about that happening in restaurants over there. You'll hear about that happening in businesses out there. It's a common thing. It's kind of like just part of life that people unfortunately accepted there. Keep in mind, Dominican Republic is not the only Latin American country that has to go through
we're aware.
This.
The only reason why we're kind of touching on that now is because events that's happened as of recently with the George Floyd murdering, and I guess how people are protesting and sort of uniting, but then you have, let's say, you got Mexicans and Dominicans who want absolutely nothing to do with the BLM movement, Black people for that matter, and it's gotten so bad that people are putting out videos, they're cursing Black people and those that support Black people, especially Hispanic folks that support Black people. So I just want to take some time and let our listeners hear this clip really quick. So take a moment.
These two fucking Hispanic cocks, they get it first, and they get it worse than these fucking fucks. You got that? You got that? Let them go with the Blacks. Let them go. May they be on the receiving end of our backlash. And may God have mercy on them. For their punishment will be 10 times worse than what we would give our enemies. If you are fucking Dominican, want to be Black, you better not be saying that we're Black. You better not be saying that. You better not be saying that.
Yeah, so you guys have heard that clip, and
so you hear that you hear the anger. You hear the anger there. You hear a very misguided passion there that's being communicated there.
I feel it's self-hate. A lot of self-hate there.
I 1,000% agree. And I saw this. A mutual friend of ours posted this on social media. I had no idea who this guy was. I'm not gonna say his name on this show because I'm not gonna promote anybody to go to his channel or whatever. But apparently he has a presence online. Apparently he has a presence. He has a following.
Right.
And I think it's absolutely disgusting. As a second generation Dominican American, I can tell you, he does not represent us. He does not represent a good vast majority of us, I want to say, regardless of, what his following may be online, what his numbers, what his views may be. There is a growing contingency of us second and third generation Dominicans, especially that are here in the United States, that have a level of wokeness that overcome all of this nonsense, and know that none of this nonsense applies. This is 1,000% BS, and more so. And again, I'll mention that a relative, let's just keep it there, a relative in me of a few years back, we're having a conversation of Dominicanism and our African descent and our African inspirations and our African influence in our culture. And the relative was telling me adamantly that is impossible. We are of Spaniard descent and we are European, therefore we are white as Dominicans, and that is all of us, and that doesn't apply to them and that doesn't apply to me, so on and so forth. So I went ahead and ponied up and got my ancestry DNA kit for me, and I got another one for this person, and I think a month later at that time, my results came back, and I came back at 26% Sub-Saharan African from Congo, Togo and Benin, and a whole bunch of other African places. And my relative, who, is not of actual blood relation to me. He came back. I came back 26% African, and they came back 28% African. So,
And
when
let's add, I remember now, Senegal.
Yeah, that's predominantly this person's ancestry came from Senegal, which I found very interesting to say that they're blacker than I am. You know what I'm saying?
So man,
yeah.
sorry to cut you off, but when you when Dominicans celebrate, they have like headdresses and garments that look like carnival, right?
Yes.
That all come from Africa. You don't see the white man doing that.
There's a lot, right? There's a lot of our stuff that comes from Africa.
How can you deny that?
Right.
People just do, and I'll add to that
because you got all these different countries who do it. You got Belize, Honduras, Brazil, Trinidad, Jamaica.
Right.
It all comes from Africa. You don't see the white man doing that. It's too cold up there.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you that the young man that you heard the clip from, they will adamantly deny, in spite of overwhelming evidence, they will deny any African influence. I'll tell you another thing that happened to me before I moved down here to Florida. I was in the Bronx. I was in a cab. I was in a gypsy cab, going from the South Bronx up to the other side of like Riverdale I was living. And I knew the driver was African because you could tell the accent and all that. And we got to talking, and I was listening to the music that he was playing on the radio, and it sounded purely like merengue, like from Dominican Republic. But for the life of me, and I know Spanish, I'm fluent. For the life of me, I could not make out the words that they were saying. So I started engaging with this driver, and I was like, where is this music from? Is this even Spanish? And he's like, oh no, this is from Ivory Coast. That's where I'm from, Ivory Coast. And I'm like, this music is from Ivory Coast? This sounds like Dominican Republic. And he's like, yeah, well, and he just tells me so matter of factly, like, yeah, well, they got it from us,
Exactly.
Yep. So, all right, really quick. Let me ask you. So, since you're like our resident expert, even though you're not an expert, could you tell us and our listeners what's the difference between Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx? Like, how are they used? When should they be used? What are the differences?
All right, so let's start with Latinx and Latino. In Spanish, the way the words end denote the gender, right? So usually anything that ends in O is masculine, anything that ends in A is feminine. So if it's a girl, you say Latina. If it's a guy, you say Latino. Latinx would get rid of that problem. So if you're talking to a group, or you especially now with the advent of the LGBTQ plus movement, Latinx is more inclusive, and it applies to anyone that is of Latin descent.
All this time I thought Latinx was a member of the X-Men, but
So moving on. So it's funny because I was having this exact same conversation with a friend of mine the other day. So Hispanic, right, denotes a person of Spanish speaking descent or origin, right? And Hispanic includes Spain. So any Spanish speaking country, right? That's the rule on Hispanic. Latin or Latinx or Latina or Latino denotes anyone from Latin America, right? So Latin America would exclude Spain, but would include Brazil. which is a Spanish speaking.
I was just about to ask about that.
Yeah, that's Portuguese.
Correct.
Speak a little bit.
Mr. Every Night is on point today.
I'll speak a little bit of Portuguese. My pronunciation is not great.
All right.
Because
Yeah.
I was usually doing it through text, but I was able to hold a conversation.
Okay. I already know what's the nature. What's the nature of these conversations if it's by text?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me share another story I had. This was it wasn't exactly recent, but I guess it's more current than my previous story. As a child. This was me as a grown man. So at this point in time, I was talking to a Haitian girl, right? So, I'm taking her out on a date in the Bronx. Now, mind you, had no idea of why I shouldn't have taken her to this particular restaurant. Turns out that it was a very popular Dominican restaurant in the Bronx. Not gonna say the name. And this was during the time when the Dominicans were pretty much lynching Haitians in the street. So you remember that?
Wow, you said to her doom.
Right.
Wow.
Now here's the thing. When we walked into the place, she looked at me and she gave me this look like, are you really this stupid? I'm like, what's wrong? Not paying attention. Sat down, we ordered. She's still looking at me, she's not talking. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So then she finally breaks down and explains it to me, and I was like, holy shit. Now, mind you, our food had already came. I felt like an idiot, right? But then that's when I started getting into my, I guess you could say my Malcolm X phase, right? I started looking around, and I started noticing they sat all of the dark-skinned people all in the same section. All of the light-skinned or Dominican Spanish folk were everywhere else, loud, having fun. Yo, I asked for some ketchup. The dude took forever to bring the ketchup. And when he brings it, instead of putting it on the table, he hands it to me, but he hands it to me like as if he's giving me a screwdriver. So he slaps it in my palm and keeps it moving. And I'm like, yo, took forever to get my drink. Yo, the chick was pissed off. Needless to say,
you ain't getting no buns tonight.
I didn't get no buns, period. I mean, I saw her one last time after that, but that was a lesson.
You have to take an L on that one, bro.
Yeah, I did. I took a major L.
So again, on behalf of the Dominican delegation, we apologize for that experience that you had in that restaurant. But yeah, you'll see some of that, unfortunately going on. And again, things have gotten, ever since I became aware, I've also become aware of the fact that things have gotten significantly better. That being said, we have a very long way to go. Very, very long way to go.
Right.
So with that being said, you owe this man some Haitian or Dominican booty?
Not me, man. You can take it.
I'll take it. Pass it on.
We make some calls.
Oh man. So let's discuss this whole George Floyd situation and the protest. What are your thoughts on this? Like, from the standpoint of you're a Dominican man. Like, first off, let's get the record straight. Do you consider yourself to be Black?
That's a good question. I've been thinking. I figured this question was gonna come. And I'll tell you this. I know now, without a shadow of a doubt, that my bloodline, at least some of it, comes from Africa, which I'm actually pretty happy about. But growing up, regardless of anything, in my heart, Black was always my friend. Regardless of how anybody wanted me to feel about that, black was my friend. Later on in
Mhm.
life, I found out that black was partially me too.
So
That
you're
that
black with Hispanic descent then.
um what I am is I'll tell you this. What I am is someone with African bloodline, but with paler skin than black people. And I say that because I have to do right and recognize that, even though I don't look white, I am more privileged than one that looks darker than me.
Well, my mom is black. She's from Jamaica. She's lighter than you.
So that's an interesting question. Does in your mother's perspective, does she find herself getting treated differently because she's
A
lighter
little
than?
bit. Some people would come up to her and start speaking Spanish, thinking that she's Spanish.
Right. I can definitely see how that happens.
Right, and then even when it comes down to that, even in the Caribbean, even though you guys are in the Caribbean, but let's keep it to the I guess the Black Islands. The lighter you are, the more right you are, and
Right.
that's terrible. But I guess our main focus definitely is guys.
Right. So, but let me continue answering the question, because I want to make sure that I do it justice.
Okay.
I recognize my privilege. At the same time, I recognize that as a Hispanic man, as a person of color, and as a Dominican especially, this is our fight, and it's our responsibility to be right next to the black community, fighting hand in hand.
Right, and I have to applaud you on that. Makes a lot of sense. You're a smart man. I mean, but yeah, back to my first question before I jumped with the second one. What are your thoughts on this situation happening? First, let's talk about your thoughts on the protests, the riots, and the looting.
Yeah, man. I think violence notwithstanding, I think the protests are a great thing. I think it's a great time to be alive. I think these are important events happening that we see are actually working. Little by little, they are affecting real change. They're being catalysts for real, measurable change happening. And it's, as long as people stay positive with the goal in mind, with the goals that we want in mind, I think this is how we get it done. I'm not condoning the burning of buildings. I'm not condoning destruction. I'm not condoning, looting, any of that other stuff. That's unfortunate that it happens, and it shouldn't happen. And I think we've seen a lot of footage and evidence of the fact that a lot of folks that are doing that are not our people, your people, our people. They are other people. That being said, I think it's great. One of the last headlines that I read said that the city council of a veto-proof majority of the city council of the city of Minneapolis has pledged to disband the police department and start from scratch.
Right. So wait, let's pause on that real quick. We're gonna take a quick break because I kind of want to fix myself a drink. We will be right back. It'll probably be a two-parter, or maybe I might make it one whole long episode. We'll see. We'll be back. Okay, so we are back. Sorry for the interruption. Of course, I had to refresh my cup. I'm sure that I'm the only one who's drinking tonight. Is that correct?
Yep.
I have to confess, unfortunately, my liver got a bit of a workout last night. So, but that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there.
But you know what?
I'm hurting a little bit today.
You let that guy go that deep?
You bugging. You are bugging every night.
All right. So, Tin, back to your thoughts on the situation. You're not for the looting and the violence and the
Yeah, no. So this is I think this is great. Um, what's happening? I think it's just like the fact that this has been so organic, and that like people have taken it upon themselves to stage protests. You got, like two people just going out on a sign in the street, just because they have the extra hour or two out of their day to do it, and they're not waiting for somebody to, like an organizer, to tell them like, hey, we're gonna meet. And this, like, this is happening in all 50 states. This is happening internationally now. There's all sorts of renowned interest to get rid of statues of people that probably shouldn't be remembered in such a positive light, again, here in the South, as well as in other countries. People that were remembered for these great feats, but that in reality were slave owners, etc., etc.
Right.
And then there's like a new level again of awareness and sensitivity. Like, I just got breaking news this afternoon from the New York Times that NASCAR, I want y'all to really pay attention to what I'm about to say, because this is crazy. I never thought this was going to happen. NASCAR, okay, has banned the Confederate flag from all of their events. Right? So
the losers flag.
Right. Well, that flag really should be the white flag, because I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's how that ended, right? So,
like I said, the losers flag. But
so in effect, this is great. It's working, but at the same time, we still have to deal with the ugly. I was telling every night a couple minutes ago during the break. He was asking me like, hey, so how are things in your area? Where you're at. So where I'm at now, I'm in Tampa, Florida. Okay, I am in the northern part. I'm almost, like, you can say, like in suburbia. Okay, and I got a message on social media saying that they're trying to organize a protest, trying to organize a demonstration in a shopping mall, or in front of a shopping mall, not too far away from me.
Before you go forward, the neighborhood you live in is predominantly.
Oh, it's big time white. It's big time white.
Right.
It's a little diverse, but it's not like, it's not crazy numbers. It's, I want to say, more than 2/3 Caucasian, right?
Got you. So shopping mall. So,
there was this massive discussion on social media and another app called Nextdoor about the protests. And of course, the uglies come out, right? The uglies come out and they say, and the biggest concern was, oh my gosh, you can do it. If you want to do that downtown, or do that in, these people's own neighborhoods, not in my neighborhood, not in my backyard. And that's the sentiment. People, a lot of people here still want to be disconnected. They don't want to see it. They don't agree with it. They don't want to be, in the presence of anything that has to do with all the protests that are going on right now, unfortunately.
Right. Because to them, all lives matter, even though, let's keep it real, the way things are going, it doesn't seem like the Black lives matter. And that's what this whole thing is mostly about. Not what they think, not us trying to start a race war. It's us wanting all of this madness to stop. Like, see, you know me, and you see I'm not a small guy, right? Now, how does that make you feel when I say that I'm afraid to go outside? I'm afraid to go to certain places, like when we were hanging out with the K-Man at his bar. Remember that situation, and I had to have you guys order my drinks for me. Like, what does that make you think? How does that make you feel when someone at my stature tells you that?
Yeah, I mean, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable is what it is. And it's the other thing that kind of just like frustrates me to no end is when you hear people say, "Oh, I don't see color," You know, the I don't see color folks. You know, I feel like that's, or I've come to realize how dismissive that mentality is too.
Exactly. Those are the people that just don't want to deal with shit. They
Right.
You know, it sounds good on paper to say I don't see color, everyone is human. Yeah, but let's keep it real. Like you said, it is dismissive. It's trying to say, hey, I don't want to talk about that, so shut up. You know what I'm saying? And I hate that shit. Like at one point, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of was on that tip back when I was a little younger, more ignorant. But as I got older, of course, I got wiser, and I realized, you know, everything is black and white, yes, but you know, we want fairness. You know, we want whatever is close to equality as we can possibly get. You know,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
you know, and I'm gonna keep it real. Like just thinking about the situation, you know, the fact that you know they always try to say the black community is not unified, right? But when you have situations where you got people shouting, "Do not call me black," when you guys have a lot of African in your blood, because that's what it took. It took African, Taino, and Spaniard to create you guys. So it's in you. And if we go by the laws of white America, one drop of black blood makes you what?
Right. Right. It doesn't make, it makes you not white. Period.
Right. So it's like, yeah, us black people can unify, but when we have our cousins, you know, dismissing us, we're a disgrace to them. You know what I mean? It weakens the movement. You know?
Right. I will tell you that I agree, but I will tell you this. I was made aware of, so again, going back to our mutual friend, right? Which, by the way, maybe you should talk about having our mutual friend on the show, man, because our mutual friend has
you don't talk to me anymore.
Listen, man, I think it may be worth it. This person has some experience with the NYPD. This person has, you know, some experience as a black person living in a Dominican neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot to dig in there.
I'm very much aware, trust me, but he don't talk to me no more. Like if I hit him up, he'll come at me with some bullshit, because to him he has to insult me because he has to get even with me, because all of the years that I bullied him online.
Oh my gosh.
You're
all right. Yeah. All right. Well, I will say that our friend put me on to something that happened in my old neighborhood up in New York, in Dyckman. So Dyckman is on like the northern tip of Manhattan. For those that don't know, it's called you know, they call it Dyckman, they call it Inwood, they call it the northern part of Washington Heights, whatever. The Heights. And you know, there were demonstrations in there recently, and I believe there was looting or attempted looting into businesses that were local, right? So we're not talking about CVS and Walgreens or Dwayne Reed up there. We're talking about, you know, Dominican groceries. We're talking about clothing stores. We're talking about, right? So, of course, word spread in the Dominican community really fast, and you know, things were about to turn sideways. And of course, once, you know, passions are high, tensions are high, and you know, the ignorant mentality is gonna be like, who did this? Oh, people that look like this, like that. Okay, we're gonna search out. We're gonna, you know, and something happened in the streets of Dyckman on that day. Of course, protesters got the treatment as if they were going to loot, which is wrong. And there was a big fallout, and I saw a lot of social media posts about the fallout. And then here's what I'm telling you is that things are getting better, and this is what stuff like this is what gives me and people like me that are like depressed, going through a whole bunch of other personal stuff in my life. It gives us hope for a brighter future. The next day they had a coming together of the minds between the Dominican community and the local Black community. Okay, they had discussions, they squashed whatever misunderstandings were, and they demonstrated together in the rain. Okay, and I saw beautiful pictures of people demonstrating and marching in the streets of Dykeman and Sherman and Vermilion and all these places that I grew up in. That's my old neighborhood. Okay, people marching with a Dominican flag right next to the Haitian flag.
Wow.
Which says volumes. And I'll tell you, as a person that grew up in Dykeman, I grew up on Vermilion Avenue. Okay, I went to school on Sherman Avenue. My grandmother still lives on Post Avenue. I know that neighborhood. I know that neighborhood well. Okay, I was told growing up, you do not pass Nagel to the other side of Nagel where the 1 train is. You do not go there. That's the Black side of town. We don't belong there. They don't come over here. We don't go over there. That's what I grew up hearing in that neighborhood. Knowing that and knowing what I just told you about Dominican history and Haitian history, okay, and seeing those pictures, yeah, you could bet your boy got a little emotional. He was going to his phone.
I could understand, because that's definitely a step in the right direction. That's what we need to be. I mean, at the end of when it comes down to it, I mean, stop saying at the end. It comes down to it, we're all humans. We need to stop allowing these stupid differences and nuances. It makes absolutely sense. Because when it comes down to it, I fucked Dominican women, I fucked Haitian women. Pussy is all the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say something. I'm not gonna say something.
I've been saying, Yeah. I am drinking, by the way, so I'm a little tipped. But I want to give kudos before we move forward to a few of my Spanish friends. I'm not gonna say their actual names. I'll just say I want to give a shout out to O. He's he understands and respects the fact that he has African and to the point that he's actually married to a Black woman and they have kids. Also want to give a shout out to AR. She's another one, and also Golden, who was actually one of the former co-hosts on Rap Pack Radio. She's actually Afro-Latina, so she's on both sides of that situation, but she does not see things from that perspective of saying that Black people are human or whatever the case may be. Also, I want to give a shout out to you too, Tin, because
respect.
Little unknown, I guess, factoid about me is you are one of the 2 people who's pretty much the reason why I no longer use the N-word. Yes, that's very powerful. The fact that you got me to you were part of the reason why I stopped, because you may not realize, but we have a lot of conversations about race and our standpoint of usually layman's opinions on the situation, basically having to deal with our personal experiences in life, right? So you explained to me one day how that family member was going rampant with the N-word one day, and you questioned him on it, and like, why do you use that word if you don't claim your African blood, whatever, and how ugly the word is and how you should not be using it. So I got to thinking one day, like I actually thought about it, and some of the things I came to the conclusion on, it was like, so many of my ancestors have fought here in America to be treated with human rights, but many of which have died hearing that as their last words. And it was like, why would I continue to sit here calling myself and my friends that when I don't see them in that light? You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, we come from a history that's been interrupted by slavery, rich history at that, where we come from a history of people who are well educated, kings, queens, come from a rich land, but yet we want to sit here and call ourselves, that word, and act like it's a term of endearment, where there is no other quote unquote race that does such a thing. And then they actually look at us and laugh, criticize us, ridicule us for even doing that. Why would I continue to do that? So I stopped. So yes, pat yourself on the back, my brother, because
I didn't know, and I to a point. Not only did I not know, I didn't even notice. I mean, that there's a lot of words in the language that I don't use, especially publicly.
Regular.
So right. But yeah, I mean, that word and I have a weird relationship. Whereas, especially because of the neighborhood that I was brought up in,
right.
I used to use the word. I used the word regularly. It was part of my, it was every other word that I said that came out of my mouth was that word. But I think for me personally, when I had my daughter, when my daughter was born, it really forced me to like self-examine, and I, in my self-examination, I realized for me personally that's not something that I feel right passing on to my kids. But at the same time realizing that, hey, maybe it's not mine to use in the first place, A, and B, those that, here's the hard part. Here's the hard part. And just like religion and a whole bunch of other stuff, right, is those that don't agree with you on your point of view, don't criticize them for it and don't judge them for it. So, you would have still used that word. I would have thought no less of you. And those, that are listening to this, that do use that word, that feel that they're entitled to, go forth. I have nothing bad to say about it. These are all just my personal things that I impose on myself. Right. That being said, Steed, I respect the hell out of what you just said.
Thank you, brother. I mean, truthfully, I have to say that I would like to say that the fact that I have denounced using the word, when I'm hanging out with my friends, they don't feel comfortable saying it around me, and I guess that's okay, because it's a step in the right direction, you know what I'm saying, because we're getting older. It just seems ridiculous for you to use that word, and like I hate the excuse that it's hard to stop using it, but then I always bring up the fact, whenever white people are around, you don't say the word at all. So I'm like, how is it hard to stop using it, but then when a white man's around, you telling me that the white man has more influence and power over you than you? That doesn't make sense. That's weakness. It's a weak excuse. But again, I thank you for that. And I guess the second person who helped stop that, his name is Kelly. English is actually English's brother.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we had a conversation about it as well, and yeah. And then there were like other things that I noticed. I guess this goes back to our topic. I'd be on the train, and not even just so much the train, like back when I would have conversations with like Hispanic friends, and back then when I used the word, and they would stop me and be like, I'm not an N-word, you're an N-word. Perfect. They would say something along the lines like, your family came here on a boat, not mine. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now, of course, that's clearly that's ignorance right there. But
Right.
you know,
Right.
yeah. So I mean, I don't fault them for their ignorance. It's we were young at the time, but it's like, wow, you see it that way, but yet you use the word and it's all good. Like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn, you really do dislike me. Wow.
Yeah. It's again, it's one of those unfortunate realities, but you gotta. That's why going back to everything that's going on right now. I mean, this is what I see that blows me away is that people are taking action. People aren't just talking about it; they're taking action, and action more than just the actual demonstration outside in the streets. They're taking action and having conversations at home that they weren't having before. Little thing about me is that I recently joined TikTok as an old man. So I'm here scrolling on TikTok, and
no shame.
I apparently lost my shame some years back. And for the record, my thing of TikTok, the algorithm doesn't give me the teenagers stuff or the kids stuff and them goofing around or whatever. What I get on my TikTok for some reason, I have no idea why, is as much as I scroll, I just see a whole bunch of single moms just asking, let's be friends, and I'm like, no thanks. But anyway, a lot of what I see on TikTok right now is Caucasian teenagers and Caucasian people in their 20s having conversations with their parents about why all lives matter is not a thing. And these are people that, again, have gotten to a level of awareness and have their parents that watch Fox News all day. And some of them have already gotten thrown out of their house because of these conversations. So when I say action being taken, is more than just grabbing, which is important too, but it's more than just grabbing a sign and demonstrating outside. Is having the important conversations at home with people that need to hear from a different perspective, from someone that they love and they care about.
Let me just interject real quick with a question. Since you brought up these conversations, did you have these conversations at home with your family?
Yeah, I mean, we're having continual conversations, the kids and I, and excuse me, and one of the first things that I always say, and I remind both my kids every once in a while, and you've seen pictures of my kids, and you know how they look. My daughter, she looks very Spanish, but my son can very much pass as Caucasian if he wants to. But I tell them both, just a reminder, we are Dominican, we are Latin, we are Hispanic, and we come from African descent, a mix of African and European descent. Just in case anyone is wondering out there, I get that out the way every once in a while. Again, I refresh it in their minds, and then we start getting into what's going on. Why is this going on? I saw this on YouTube. I don't understand what's happening with this or what's happening with that. And then we have conversations of like, look, I had to explain George Floyd to my daughter. I had to explain that. I had to explain that to my 11-year-old. And these are, again, nationwide. These are things that we have to make our kids aware of, so that it'll be easier for them to get to where we are now in the level of awareness, right? The wokeness, where we are now, we got here through a level of effort and through a level of struggle and through a level of trial and error and misunderstanding, right? if we try to pass down that information earlier on, then it'll just be easier for them, and they'll be even more aware and way more woke than we could ever be once they get to be our age. That's the goal.
Great. That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. All right. So what about, you said you got your first, second, and third generation. Have you ever tried to preach down to the first generation?
Boy, yeah. I remember having a conversation with when I was younger, having a conversation with my grandfather, who was significantly darker than I was, than I am. My grandfather passed away in this past December.
Condolences.
Thank you. But I remember having a conversation with him where he was telling me, and he would put his finger in my face and he would be like, listen, don't you bring that race into my house. Don't you bring don't bring them here, because we're not them and they're not of us. Won't you find yourself a nice pale skinned girl out there with good hair and so on and so forth. Of course, me being a teenager at that time and your grandfather telling you this, you don't have the ammunition yet to fire back with anything. If anything, this is someone you love and respect and you care for, you're gonna lean forward and you're gonna be like, well, maybe he's right, But I will tell you that happily, my father and I have had many conversations about topics like this. We've had many conversations about, the state of affairs in our country right now, and I can happily report that I've along the years, especially, I've been able to move the needle significantly on things that are really important for other things to be known. I've laid significant foundations there, and not to mention the fact that my father's he's not a bad guy. He's not one of these cold-hearted individuals.
Right.
It's the struggle of fighting that internal training that you grew up with, hearing over and over and over again.
Programming.
Exactly.
Right.
And not just with him, but with other family members. As you know, the conversation I've had with this relative of mine that we've mentioned in this episode before.
Yeah.
But on that side of the family, the generation higher, the generation before mine, we've had significant conversations where the needle has moved. Maybe not as much, but it's moved there to an extent that progress is being made. Right. And it's weird. It's weird that I'm exactly, and it's weird. I have to say that I always get super nervous and afraid where I look around and we're having these conversations and I represent, quote unquote, the voice of reason in the room. If it's me, if I'm the guy that represents the voice of, we're all in trouble. I always think. Because I'm not qualified to be doing that.
Come on, man. Don't sell yourself short.
I try, man. I try.
Real talk. You are one of my more intelligent friends, and I am proud to call you.
I appreciate that, man. Same here with you, man. I'm very proud that we stayed in touch after working together for many years ago, and it's been awesome, the conversations that we have, and now we get to record them and put them on the air for the whole world to listen to.
Hey,
all 24 people that are going to listen to this episode.
Hey, listen, whether it be one person, 2 people, 1,000, you got to rock them all, baby.
Right. I tell you one sponsor you're not gonna get after this episode is Presidente Beer. That's for sure. Not gonna be. Don't expect that call anytime soon, bro.
Okay.
I think I pissed everybody off in this. I think I think.
Listen, man. Listen. Hey, it's nothing wrong with trying to educate folks on situations, everything that's going on. I mean, let's keep it real. The situation between Black and Dominican, it exists, but people try to sweep it under the rug. You know,
Right.
you always want to just worry about the situation between Black people and white people. That, for a lot of people, that's the only concept of racism that exists.
Right.
You know, like you could ask Asian person. You mention racism, they automatically go to America between Black and white. You know, they don't look at some of the things that they do towards of other ethnicities that get racist. You know.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, the traditional definition of racism is, you know, racist is a person who has higher authority over another. And if you don't have that authority, you cannot be considered a racist. I don't really subscribe to that. I just think, personally, if you dislike another person because of their skin color or their race, ethnicity, or whatever the case may be, you're racist, prejudice, you're a bigot, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, to your point, right? And it talks a little bit about the bigger problem, like the much bigger part of racism that we don't see or we don't talk about, which is not just two individuals being mean to each other on the basis of race, but the way the systems in which we live in are designed to keep certain people down and promote other people up, right? So, you know, I think it was a TED talk or something that exactly a TED talk that I was listening to or something that said, again, to your point, Steve, racism is discrimination plus power. Right. If you don't have the power, you can't be racist. So, yeah, it's a lot more complicated than folks want to give it credit for, and that's what's even more frustrating for a lot of us, to hear the dismissive language of all lives matter, because all lives have mattered for ages except for some. Right. So it's about time that we have the conversation of that some that didn't matter, that had not mattered, they need the spotlight right now. This is their time.
Right. It is. I mean, and you see, I don't know. It kind of bugs me out how, you know, like I, for the life of me, I can't understand why all over the world, Black people are hated, especially Black Americans. You know, all over the world. And the funny part about that situation to me is, you are like the most forgiving, welcoming people ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's keep it real. Tin Man, if you brought your family to a Black barbecue, nobody's gonna make you feel out of place. You know, people will feed you, make sure you're good. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Now me, I know if I go to a barbecue of any other kind of race, I'm gonna have to deal with all kinds of nonsense. You know, people start like, I remember one time I went to an Asian restaurant with some Asian folks, and they, you know, I don't know anything about this thing called hot pot at that given moment, right? Of course, I learned after that experience, but I'm asking questions, and then one person stopped me and was like, "Listen, there's a Popeyes right down the street if you don't really want to eat this." Right. Right. So I just don't get it, don't understand it. I don't, but I guess this is what, you know, this is the imagery that's put out there, you know, and, you know, I guess that adds to the fact and some of the fear with cops murdering Black people in the streets, unarmed Black men. mistreating mistreating black women when they arrest them, but then arrest white women and actually give them water. That you know, these little things they just kind of bother me. But let me ask you, because I kind of want to wrap this shortly. What steps do you think? Okay, outside of what you said earlier about the coming of the minds and marching together, what other steps do you think we can take to try to repair the situation between Dominican?
I think that I've heard a few very, very smart people that I trust and respect a lot recently. I heard them talk a lot about the fact that these problems overall in general, not just the Dominican thing, but overall in general, whites, blacks, Hispanics, just the big picture. True ignorance has to do with the lack of knowledge, and a lot of us lack the knowledge because we haven't had the experience. We haven't had the experience because we haven't been exposed to the experience, right? So I think this has a lot to do with what we allow ourselves to be exposed to. Case in point, again, outside of the Dominican story, big picture, if somebody's white that has that one black friend, but that is racist to every other black person, and they'll go to that black person and say, yeah, but black people, I can't stand it because da 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 da, but not you. You're one of the good ones. Which we've all heard before. We've all heard before, right? This is a matter of limited exposure, because you've exposed yourself to one person. You got to know that one person. You have a personal relationship with that person. You now care for that person, right? And you see that person outside of their race. You see them as an individual, right? Get yourself more black friends. As a Dominican, get yourself more black friends. As a black person in a Dominican, situation, get yourself more Dominican friends. This is how we get better. If you're a sexist, machista, chauvinist guy that dislikes women for all sorts of reasons that there are plenty of, look them up online. Again, mind blowing that this exists and this is a thing. Expose yourself to more women and get to know them as women, as people, as individuals outside of their classification
and outside of the strip club.
Jesus.
Man, I couldn't help it. But yeah, man. I mean, I you know what? I have to agree with you, and I guess you could say I should try to follow suit. But as a man who's nearing his 40s, it's like really hard to make new friends. So, yeah, I have so few Latino, Hispanic friends. Like, honestly, I have to say I got no more than 5, and you're one of them. And that I thank you, and I will. Like I said, I no longer use the N-word. I consider us kings and queens, but by that definition, you are a Dominican.
I can't believe what I'm hearing right now. What's happening?
All right. So anyway, any last words, any last thoughts, any takeaways from this? Like, what's up? Share your thoughts.
Nah, you know me, man. Spread love. Be safe.
Wait. I wanna touch on.
Hey! Keep your hands to yourself. Don't touch me.
I wanna touch on the thing where you talk about
you touching on things
with the Asian situation, and they told you to go to Popeyes,
right?
If you don't like what they had. So I told you I used to mess with an Asian chick, and we used to go out to Chinatown and eat. They used to look at us funny.
That's what every
She
night.
didn't notice it. She didn't notice it, but I could see them staring and all that. And what really surprised them is that I knew how to use chopsticks. She didn't have to show me. She was surprised I knew how to use chopsticks, even before we even started going to these restaurants and stuff. So I was a little exposed to some of her culture, and she didn't even know that. But we did get them funny looks. No, but I never was told to go to Popeyes. That's crazy.
Well, all right. Let me ask you. Since we're on the topic, I guess. How you brought it back? Your man was just waiting. He's like, let me bring this show back. Anyway, where was your Asian friend from?
China,
Really?
but she was born here.
Oh, okay. So she's an ABC,
Yeah.
American-born Chinese.
I was about to ask. Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. So every night, let me ask you, what is your takeaway? What is your final thoughts on this topic?
Well, Tin Man was very informative. You know, he shed some light onto some stuff I didn't know was going on. I thank him for that.
Salute.
Awesome. So I'll say this. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we should all love each other and treat each other with respect. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. The whole situation. I am glad to see that there is change coming about, and after these situations, when we come out on the end, we're probably going to see a whole different world. It's going to be a different world from where we come from. Yes, it is now. Not for real. Here's our chance to make it if we focus on our goals. Because if they dish it, we can take it. Just remember that you've been told.
Listen, if we're lucky, we can. After all this, we could be moving on up to the east side. Okay, to a deluxe apartment in the sky high.
My brother. So with that being said, I am the dark-skinned marksman J-Steed, and he is
The problem solver, Mr. Every Night.
And our guest, he is
Tin Man, aka Florida Man, keeping it nasty.
And that's Rat Pack Media, and that's a wrap.